Marina Aldridge smoothed the silk tablecloth one final time, her fingers trembling as they traced the gold-rimmed edge of the untouched place setting. The crystal wine glass caught the candlelight, casting prismatic rainbows across the empty chair where her husband should have been sitting. 10 years. 10 years of marriage, and Maximilian had missed their anniversary dinner again. The Waterford crystal chandelier illuminated a table set for two, but only one woman sat in the cavernous dining room of their Manhattan penthouse. Steam rose from the lobster thermidor, his favorite, growing cold as minutes stretched into hours. Marina's black Valentino dress, chosen specifically for tonight, felt like armor against the silence that had become her constant companion. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maximilian's assistant. Emergency board meeting. Don't wait up. 5 years. That's how long it had been since her husband had touched her with anything resembling affection. 5 years since he'd kissed her goodbye, held her hand, or looked at her with the warmth that once made her believe in fairy tales. The man who commanded boardrooms and inspired philanthropic galas had become a stranger in their own home. Marina rose from the table, her heels clicking against the Italian marble floor, the only sound in their $20 million fortress of solitude. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, watching couples stroll hand-in-hand below, while her own reflection stared back like a ghost in designer clothing. The memories hit her in waves. Maximilian working through their honeymoon in Santorini, his laptop glowing while she watched sunsets alone. Business calls during intimate dinners. The gradual retreat from their bedroom to separate wings of the house. 5 years of good morning nods and polite goodnight exchanges, as if they were roommates sharing expensive real estate rather than husband and wife sharing a life. 3 weeks later, at the Children's Hospital Charity Gala, Marina stood beside Maximilian as he delivered his annual speech about the importance of nurturing relationships. His hand rested on the podium, mere inches from hers, yet the distance felt oceanic. She smiled for the cameras, the perfect billionaire's wife in her emerald Chanel gown, but noticed how other couples in the ballroom held each other. "They never touch anymore," she overheard Margaret Pemberton whisper to her companion at the cocktail reception. "Not even a hand on the shoulder. It's quite peculiar for newlyweds." "Oh wait, how long have they been married now?" 10 years, came the response, though they look more like business partners than lovers. Marina excused herself to the powder room, her cheeks burning with humiliation. In the mirror, she saw a woman who had everything money could buy, except the one thing it couldn't: her husband's love. Her reflection revealed hollow eyes that had learned to hide disappointment behind perfectly applied makeup. Standing there in the gilded bathroom of New York's most exclusive hotel, surrounded by luxury that meant nothing without human connection, Marina made a decision that would change everything. She wouldn't spend another anniversary dinner alone. If you've ever felt invisible in your own relationship or know someone who's been silenced by someone they trusted, this story is about to take a turn that will leave you speechless. Hit that like button if you believe every woman deserves to be seen and valued. The house felt different when Maximilian left for his monthly golf retreat in the Hamptons. Without his commanding presence filling the penthouse, Marina could finally breathe. She'd grown to anticipate these weekend escapes, not because she missed him, but because his absence gave her space to exist without walking on eggshells. Friday afternoon sunlight streamed through the study windows as Marina dusted the shelves, something their housekeeper usually handled. But today, she needed the mindless activity, the gentle rhythm of cloth against wood. Her hand paused on a leather-bound first edition when she noticed the antique Mosler safe tucked behind Maximilian's mahogany desk. For 10 years, that safe had been forbidden territory. Business documents, he'd always said when she asked. Confidential investor information. You wouldn't understand the complexity. Marina's jaw tightened at the memory of his condescending tone. She circled the desk, drawn to the imposing steel vault like a moth to flame. The brass dials gleamed, their combination a mystery that had haunted her curiosity for a decade. Her heart hammered as she recalled last month's overheard phone conversation. Maximilian had been speaking in hushed tones about asset protection, and spousal limitation protocols. The words had sent ice through her veins, though she hadn't fully understood their meaning. She tried the handle instinctively. Locked, naturally. Marina opened the desk drawers methodically, her fingers searching through fountain pens and business cards. In the bottom drawer, tucked beneath old tax documents, her fingertips brushed against cold metal. A spare key, wrapped in tissue paper. The key felt heavy in her palm, its weight carrying the gravity of crossing a line she could never uncross. Marina's hands shook as she inserted it into the safe's lock. The mechanism turned with a soft click that seemed to echo through the silent study. The door swung open, revealing neat stacks of documents bound with red ribbon. Marina lifted the first bundle, her eyes scanning the legal letterhead. Aldridge Family Trust, spousal exclusion provisions. Her breath caught. The words swam before her eyes as their meaning became clear. Maximilian had restructured their entire financial foundation to exclude her from any meaningful ownership. Properties she'd believed they owned together were titled solely in his name. Bank accounts she'd assumed were joint had been quietly transferred to offshore entities where her signature held no weight. The second document made her knees buckle. A pre-drafted divorce settlement that would leave her with a mere $500,000. Pocket change compared to their $2.8 billion empire. The date was recent. 3 months ago, while she'd been planning their anniversary dinner, Maximilian had been planning her financial exile. Marina sank into his leather chair, the documents scattered across the desk like evidence of a crime. Her marriage hadn't been a partnership. It had been a performance, with her playing the unwitting role of decorative spouse, while he maneuvered to strip away any claim she might have to the wealth they'd built together. The betrayal cut deeper than his emotional abandonment. This wasn't mere neglect. This was calculated erasure. For 5 years, she'd blamed herself for their distance, wondering what she'd done wrong. Now she understood. Maximilian hadn't pulled away from their marriage. He'd been strategically dismantling it. Marina reached for her phone with steady hands. She had calls to make, lawyers to contact, and a war to prepare for. Marina spent the weekend alone in her study, transforming from wounded wife into calculating strategist. She photographed every document in the safe, uploaded them to encrypted cloud storage, and began building her case with the methodical precision that had once earned her a finance degree from Wharton. Credentials Maximilian had convinced her to abandon for marriage. Her first call Monday morning was to Victoria Chen, Manhattan's most feared divorce attorney. Victoria's reputation for dismantling the financial fortresses of cheating billionaires made her both expensive and essential. Mrs. Aldridge, Victoria's voice carried the authority of someone who'd never lost a high-stakes battle. I've been expecting your call for years. They met that afternoon in Victoria's corner office, overlooking the Hudson River. Marina spread the safe's contents across the mahogany conference table, like a prosecutor presenting evidence to a jury. Victoria's eyes widened as she reviewed the spousal exclusion provisions. This is extraordinary work. Your husband's been planning this exodus for over 2 years. But he made one crucial mistake. Which is, he underestimated you. Victoria leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled. These offshore transfers require both spousal consent and disclosure under New York law. He forged your signatures on at least 12 documents. Marina felt power surge through her veins for the first time in years. What are our options? We're going nuclear. Emergency asset freeze, forensic accounting, and fraud charges. He'll wake up tomorrow unable to access 60% of his liquid assets. The legal machine moved with devastating efficiency. Victoria assembled a team of forensic accountants, international banking experts, and media relations specialists. Within 48 hours, they'd filed motions in 3 jurisdictions, frozen offshore accounts, and placed liens on properties across 2 continents. Wednesday morning, Maximilian's assistant called in a panic. Mrs. Aldridge, your husband needs to speak with you immediately. There's been some kind of banking error. No error, Marina replied calmly, sipping her coffee while reviewing newspaper headlines. Just consequences. The New York Times business section led with, Aldridge empire frozen, wife files fraud claims against billionaire husband. The Wall Street Journal's headline read, Marina Aldridge's financial rebellion shocks Wall Street. Marina's phone buzzed constantly. Friends from their social circle called with barely concealed excitement, hungry for details about the scandal rocking Manhattan's elite. Margaret Pemberton, who'd whispered about their distant marriage at the charity gala, now gushed with admiration. "Marina, darling, you've got the entire Upper East Side talking. How did you discover his schemes?" "Sometimes the truth hides in plain sight," Marina replied, enjoying the delicious irony. "You just need the courage to look." The real satisfaction came Thursday evening when Maximilian returned from his golf retreat to find process servers waiting in their penthouse lobby. Marina watched from the window as her husband, the man who'd controlled every aspect of their marriage, stood helpless while legal documents were thrust into his hands. His phone call came within minutes. "Marina, we need to discuss this misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding, Maximilian. You spent 5 years treating me like an expensive decoration while secretly preparing to discard me. Now you'll discover what it feels like to lose control. You're making the mistake. The media attention, the legal fees, this will destroy us both." Marina laughed, a sound she hadn't made in years. "You already destroyed us. I'm just making sure the rubble doesn't bury me." Friday's headlines confirmed her victory. Aldridge assets remain frozen as judge orders full financial discovery. The accompanying photo showed Marina entering the courthouse, head held high, no longer the silent wife standing in her husband's shadow. For the first time in 5 years, Marina Aldridge felt truly alive. Marina just went from victim to victor in 48 hours. If you're cheering for women who refuse to stay silent, drop a ha in the comments and tell us, what would you do if you discovered this level of betrayal? Subscribe for more stories of women who fought back and won. The Manhattan Supreme Court buzzed with anticipation as cameras lined the courthouse steps. Marina emerged from her black Mercedes, flanked by Victoria Chen and 2 junior associates, their briefcases loaded with evidence that would reshape a billionaire's empire. Reporters shouted questions, but Marina's silence spoke volumes. She'd let her legal strategy do the talking. Judge Eleanor Hartwell presided over the packed courtroom with the gravity of someone accustomed to high-profile divorces among New York's elite. Maximilian sat at the defendant's table, his usual commanding presence diminished by the weight of frozen assets and public scrutiny. "Your Honor," Victoria began, her voice cutting through the courtroom's tension. "The plaintiff presents evidence of systematic financial fraud spanning 5 years. Mr. Aldridge didn't just hide assets from his wife. He actively forged her signatures to transfer their marital property into untouchable offshore accounts." Maximilian's attorney, the distinguished Robert Blackwood, attempted damage control. "Your Honor, Mrs. Net Aldridge's unauthorized access to private business documents constitutes a clear violation of attorney-client privilege and confidential business information." Judge Hartwell leaned forward. "Mr. Blackwood, your client's business documents included forged signatures and fraudulent transfers of marital assets. This court is more concerned with criminal activity than privacy violations." The gallery erupted in whispers. Marina maintained perfect composure, though inside she felt vindicated for the first time in years. Day 2 brought devastating testimony from forensic accountant Dr. Sarah Williams, whose analysis revealed the staggering scope of Maximilian's deception. Mr. Aldridge transferred $847 million in marital assets to offshore entities between 2019 and 2024, using forged spousal consent documents. Mrs. Aldridge was systematically excluded from ownership of properties she believed they owned jointly. The media narrative shifted dramatically as details emerged. Initially framed as a gold-digging wife attacking her successful husband, stories now painted Marina as a victim of financial abuse who'd fought back against a manipulative spouse. CNN's evening broadcast featured relationship expert Dr. Michael Torres. Marina Aldridge represents thousands of women trapped in marriages where financial control equals emotional control. Her courage to expose this systematic abuse has created a cultural moment. Social media exploded with support. Team Marina trended on Twitter as women shared their own stories of financial manipulation in relationships. The hashtag Marina's Revenge gained momentum, though Marina privately preferred the empowerment narrative over revenge themes. Week 2 of proceedings brought character witnesses who painted contrasting portraits of the couple. Former household staff testified about Maximilian's coldness and Marina's lonely dinners. Business associates described Maximilian's obsession with control, extending beyond boardrooms into his personal life. The turning point came when Maximilian took the stand. Under Victoria's relentless cross-examination, his carefully constructed image crumbled. "Mr. Aldridge, did you or did you not forge your wife's signature on the Grand Cayman property transfer?" The signature was administrative convenience. Marina would have signed if asked. But you didn't ask, did you? Instead, you practiced her signature and fraudulently represented her consent to transfer a $45 million property. Maximilian's silence spoke louder than any admission. The courtroom gallery, packed with socialites who'd witnessed the couple's deteriorating marriage, watched their former peer self-destruct under oath. By week 3, public opinion had crystallized completely in Marina's favor. The woman initially dismissed as a vengeful spouse was now hailed as a financial abuse survivor who'd refused to be silently discarded. Women's advocacy groups rallied outside the courthouse daily. Signs read, "Marina's courage equals our freedom," and "No more silent suffering." Even conservative financial publications acknowledged the case's importance. The Wall Street Journal's editorial declared, "The Aldridge case exposes how wealth can mask systematic abuse. Mrs. Aldridge's legal victory represents justice for countless women denied financial transparency in marriage." Marina had become more than a wronged wife. She'd become a symbol of resistance against the entitled men who believed money could buy silence. Judge Hartwell's gavel struck with finality, the sound echoing through the packed courtroom like a bell of liberation. This court awards Mrs. Marina Aldridge $1.4 billion in damages, plus full restoration of all fraudulently transferred assets. Aldridge's systematic financial abuse represents one of the most egregious cases of marital fraud this court has witnessed. Marina closed her eyes, feeling 5 years of suffocating silence shatter into freedom. Victoria squeezed her shoulder as cameras flashed and reporters scribbled furiously. Maximilian sat frozen at the defendant's table, his empire of control reduced to legal obligation and public humiliation. The settlement made Marina one of the wealthiest women in America, but wealth had never been her goal. Walking down the courthouse steps as hundreds of supporters cheered, she knew exactly how she'd use her newfound independence. 3 months later, Marina stood before the gleaming glass facade of the newly established Aldridge Foundation for Women's Financial Empowerment. The irony of using Maximilian's name for women's liberation wasn't lost on her. It felt like poetic justice. The foundation's mission was personal, ensuring no woman would ever again face the financial manipulation Marina had endured. She hired former Wall Street executives, legal advocates, and counselors to create comprehensive programs addressing financial literacy, legal rights awareness, and emotional recovery from economic abuse. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the foundation's director, marveled at Marina's hands-on approach. Most philanthropists write checks and attend galas. Marina reviews every curriculum, interviews every counselor candidate. She understands that financial education is literally freedom. The Foundation's flagship program, Breaking Financial Chains, provided free legal consultation, financial planning services, and emergency funding for women escaping financially controlling relationships. Within 6 months, they'd helped over 2,000 women across 12 states. Marina's transformation, from society wife to advocate, culminated in her first public speaking engagement at the National Women's Financial Summit in Chicago. Standing at the podium, before 3,000 attendees, she felt the weight of representing every woman who'd been silenced by financial intimidation. 5 years ago, I sat alone at anniversary dinners while my husband systematically erased me from our financial future, Marina began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. I believed his coldness was my failure, his distance my inadequacy. I was wrong. The audience leaned forward, captivated by her raw honesty. Financial abuse isn't just about money, it's about power, control, and the systematic destruction of a woman's sense of worth. When someone controls your access to resources, they control your ability to leave, to choose, to exist as an equal partner. Thunderous applause erupted as Marina continued. But here's what my ex-husband never understood. Underestimating a woman's intelligence is the most expensive mistake a man can make. The crowd rose to their feet. Marina smiled, remembering the woman who'd once apologized for existing in her own home. That woman was gone, replaced by someone who'd transformed her pain into purpose. Every woman deserves financial transparency, legal protection, and the knowledge that she's never trapped by someone else's greed. That's not just a goal. It's our promise. As applause thundered through the convention center, Marina knew her real life had finally begun. Marina turned her pain into purpose, helping thousands of women escape financial abuse. Have you or someone you know ever felt trapped by financial control? Share this video. It might save someone's life. And if this story is hitting different, make sure you're subscribed to Hearts Unbroken for more incredible journeys from darkness to light. 2 years later, Marina returned to the Manhattan penthouse for the final time. The divorce settlement had awarded her the property, but she decided to sell it. Too many memories of silent dinners and hollow anniversaries haunted these gilded rooms. Walking through the dining room where she'd once waited hours for Maximilian's empty promises, Marina felt no pain. The mahogany table that had witnessed her loneliness now held stacks of foundation documents and thank you letters from women across the country. One letter particularly moved her. Mrs. Aldridge, your foundation helped me discover my husband had hidden $200,000 in accounts I never knew existed. Because of your legal assistance program, I'm now financially independent with my 2 daughters. You saved our lives. The Aldridge Foundation had grown beyond Marina's wildest dreams. 12 states, 47 legal clinics, and over 15,000 women helped to financial freedom. The ripple effect was extraordinary. Daughters learning financial literacy from empowered mothers, women starting businesses with newfound knowledge, marriages becoming true partnerships through transparency. Dr. Walsh called with updates weekly. Marina, the Washington Post wants to interview you about our congressional testimony next month. 3 senators are co-sponsoring the Financial Abuse Prevention Act based on our research. Real change was happening. Laws were evolving. Women were refusing to accept financial manipulation as normal relationship dynamics. Marina's phone buzzed with a text from her newest legal victory. Court ruled in my favor today. Getting 50% of everything, just like you promised. Thank you for showing me I deserved better. Standing in the penthouse study where she'd discovered Maximilian's betrayal, Marina opened the antique safe one final time. Inside lay the original documents that had changed her life, evidence of deception that had become the foundation for justice. She locked the safe and placed the key on the desk. Let the next owner find their own secrets. Outside, Manhattan's skyline glittered with possibility. Marina had dinner plans with her foundation board, women who'd become family, united by shared purpose rather than social obligation. Her driver held the door as she stepped into the evening air. Where to, Mrs. Aldridge? The future, she replied, smiling at her own dramatics. As the car pulled away from her former prison, Marina caught her reflection in the window. No longer a woman seeking love from someone incapable of giving it, but a force of nature who'd transformed personal devastation into collective liberation. The lonely wife was gone. The phoenix had risen. Marina's revenge wasn't destruction. It was transformation that empowered thousands. If stories of resilience, justice, and women reclaiming their power inspire you, you're exactly where you belong. Subscribe to Hearts Unbroken and ring that notification bell, because every story we share proves that your lowest moment can become your greatest comeback. What transformation story would you like to see next?